Hey guys, what's up? It's Born a Brawler, welcoming you back to another Pokemon TCG Pocket video. This one is an update video for the next set coming out on April 30th, which will be Celestial Guardians. This set is all about Alola. It has a bunch of the Pokemon and the trainers, but there's actually one card in here which I am really wondering if it's going to shape up the metagame. For people who are already acquainted with Pokemon, and specifically the TCG in general, I think you might already know what I'm talking about, but don't want to keep y'all waiting. Let's go ahead and get into the cards. So first up, we're shown the Alolan starter trio, first with Rowlet, 60 HP and Leafage for 20, Litten with 60 HP and Heat Tackle for 30, but does 10 damage to itself, and Popplio with 60 HP and Water Gun for 20. All pretty standard attacks here, but they actually show another set of the starters, which is something I'm actually a really big fan of, kind of letting people play a little bit more to their playstyles and giving a bit more nuance to the starters that they're going to choose for their evolutions. For this one, we have Rowlet with 60 HP still, but has Skill Dive. This attack does 10 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, so okay for pinging any Pokemon that are on the bench and low on HP. You have a Litten with still 60 HP and Scratch for 20, so it's basically dialing it back to normal. It's less risky, but is also a more consistent play. And then you have Popplio with 60 HP still, but with Sing, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. I actually can see this one getting played a good bit, mainly because the energy cost is a colorless. Now, do I think people are going to be slotting Popplio into fire decks or electric decks or whatever? No, not necessarily, but I do think if you were going to run a mixed energy deck, like if you wanted water and steel for some reason, you would still be able to play this Popplio on curve pretty well, assuming it's the only card you have. After this, we do get into one of the featured Pokemon for the packs, Solgaleo EX. It has the ability Rising Road. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may switch it in with your active Pokemon, and has Soul Breaker for 2 energies and does 120 damage, but this Pokemon does 10 damage to itself. I think that this is incredibly powerful, with the exception that it is a Stage 2 Pokemon. Needing Cosmog going into Cosmoem and then going into Solgaleo is going to be a slower paced play than what we're normally used to. Rising Road in particular is a very good ability, and especially when you consider the Dialga EX decks, being able to basically retreat that Dialga for free and put in this Solgaleo to do a whole bunch of damage, I mean, it does seem nice. I just think that people may stray away from it because it is a Stage 2 and basic EX Pokemon have been so prevalent. We get a sneak peek of 2 other cards that will be in the Solgaleo pack, which is Oricorio and Alolan Meowth. This Oricorio is Psychic and has 70 HP. It has Dazzle Dance for 2 energies, does 40 damage, and also your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. And then just Alolan Meowth, pretty basic Pokemon, 60 HP and does Scratch for 20. These cards are fairly basic, but it is good to know that we are going to be getting a lot of the Alolan Pokemon, and of course Oricorio is a Pokemon that can change forms, so getting more of those types are probably going to be likely. And then finally, we have Alolan Raichu EX as the last Pokemon we see in the Solgaleo pack. It has 140 HP, has Psychic for 3 energies, all colorless. It does 60 damage plus. This attack does 30 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. I do think what you're probably going to average, around 150 damage for the 3 energies your opponent will have attached is good. And another really useful thing is that the energy is colorless, so you can slot this into other decks very easily and kind of have this counter card. Next, we move on into the other pack for Lunala EX. It has 180 HP with the ability Psychic Connect. Once during your turn, you may move all psychic energy from one of your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon, and then it has Lunar Blast for 100 damage, but costs 3 energies. Ordinarily, I would say Lunala EX is a cracked Pokemon, but you are still dealing with the Stage 2. And I'm basically foreshadowing things here, but there's an item later on that kind of helps the Stage 2 Pokemon, and I do wonder if just besides these, we're going to be seeing a whole lot of Stage 2s that we didn't see before, just because you have a little bit more consistency in your deck. I do think if you're playing Lunala EX though, you're really only playing it for the ability. Lunar Blast for 100 is fine, but you have a lot more psychic options at the moment that really are going to make use of those energies. Then same as the other pack, we have a sneak peek of 2 Pokemon. We have Oricorio, has 70 HP and Spiteful Dance for 20 damage. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 60 more damage. This is a common enough effect, and for 80 damage, I do think that overall it's going to be a good Pokemon. It plays a similar role to Marshadow, but it has 1 less energy cost. And then we have Alolan Vulpix. With 60 HP, can use Call Forth Cold, and take a water energy from your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. I think until we actually see what Alola Ninetales does, I'm not really sure how helpful this will be. Granted, you know, you do have Vaporeon as an engine that you can use alongside Alolan Vulpix to kind of build up energies, but we've also seen that there are so many other ways for you to get water energies in the archetype already. That's not the reason you'd be playing this card, right? Once more, it's going to hinge a lot on what Alola Ninetales does, but as it is, it's fine enough. Then we are shown a last sneak peek of the Lunala pack, and it's going to be a 1-star rare in Alola Marowak. It is 110 HP, is fire type, and then has a unique attack Burning Boomerang, which looks very similar to Marowak EX. For 3 energies, you can flip 2 coins. This attack does 70 damage for each heads, and if at least one of them is heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned. Objectively speaking, I think that this is far better than Marowak EX. One of the big complaints I have is that you are using an EX Pokemon for a completely random coin flip, and unlike Celebi EX, it doesn't really grow or have the ability to do a whole lot of damage if you just completely whiff. In the case of Alola Marowak though, it doesn't have the really bad cost of being 2 points, it's only a single point, but it can still put out 140 damage, and even if you only hit one of them, you're still getting a burn. So you're going to be getting tick damage during every single Pokemon checkup. For people who are a fan of the Marowak deck, I see people just going to this immediately. As for me, I will be staying away as per usual, but I mean, hey, it is going to be better. Finally, we are given a rush of trainer cards that will be introduced in this set. We have Rotom Dex, which allows you to look at the top card of your deck, then you may shuffle it. Basically, you know, if you don't like what you see, you can shuffle it and hope that it doesn't end back up on the top of the deck. And then we have the big card, Rare Candy. Choose one of your basic Pokemon in play. If you have a stage 2 card in your hand that evolves from that Pokemon, put that card onto the basic Pokemon to evolve it, skipping the stage 1. You can't use this card during your first turn or on a basic Pokemon that was put into play this turn. Rare Candy is an absolute godsend in the regular TCG. I really don't know how it's going to affect Pokemon TCG Pocket since we do have smaller deck sizes, but I can see a situation where people just forego a bunch of stage 1s, run a bunch of stage 2s, and then just use the Rare Candy whenever they think that they need it. So say for example, instead of slotting in 2 stage 1 Pokemon, you might only get 1 stage 1 Pokemon, and in those places you put Rare Candies to make sure that you have the skip if you happen to draw into it. As stated before, this is going to do a lot for Pokemon that were having a hard time reaching their stage 2, and I think players will find ways to elevate decks that really had this problem before now that there's kind of this generic skip. I'm fully aware that I could be wrong and that this is just, you know, something that we knew was coming eventually and wasn't going to really change the state of the game, but to me, Rare Candy has always been a very, very important card when it comes to these kinds of decks. And so I see it being the most impactful card of this set. Then we're getting into the supporter cards, which are based on the trial captains of Alola. First up, we have Alima. Put one of your colorless Pokemon that has damage on it into your hand. I haven't paid too much attention to the colorless pool, like playing a deck strictly around it, but this card in particular seems very strong. In general, being able to prevent your opponent from getting points and putting them behind is something that's really valuable in the game. And so I see Alima being a really huge part of a stall or stun strategy in the future. It only takes one Pokemon to make Alima very annoying to deal with, and I don't know, it may actually exist already. I just may not know about it. We then transition into Lana and Kiawe. For Lana, you can use this card only if you have Araquanid in play and switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon into the active spot. This is just another variant of boss disorders like Sabrina and Cyrus. I actually don't know, even if you want to play Araquanid, that you would play Lana, because to me, forcing yourself to have Araquanid in play, and sometimes, you know, it might be on the very bottom of the deck, you may not get to use this card at all, whereas in most cases, you're going to at least get to see Cyrus played, and always you'll get to see Sabrina played. I think that this is an incredibly niche card that won't see a whole lot of play. Then moving on to Kiawe, we have choose one of your Alola Marowak or Turtonator, take 2 fire energies from your energy zone and attach to that Pokemon, your turn ends. So to me, this could be insane, assuming Turtonator is a very good Pokemon. Being able to play this on turn 1 and then essentially give your Turtonator 2 energies and then on your next turn be able to have a 3rd energy is just very valuable. Now, if we come to learn that Turtonator needs 4 energies to attack, that's going to be a huge bummer. And, you know, having the option for Alola Marowak is good too, just means that you will have to wait to play him until later. The turn ending is a bit of a rough effect, but assuming you get this card out early and you're able to use it, then you're going to be pressing the advantage far more than your opponent. So then we get into another trio of captains. We have Acerola. Choose one of your Palossand or Mimikyu that has damage on it and move 40 of its damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. That's a pretty good effect. 40 damage on your opponent's active Pokemon is not negligible, and a net total of 80 damage kind of being moved across the board is good. Again, it'll depend on whether or not Palossand or Mimikyu are really worth playing, but that's yet to be seen. We then have Mallow, which allows you to heal all damage from one of your Shiinotic or Serena if you do discard all energy from that Pokemon. This could be useful, but the downside of discarding all of your energies isn't really great, and especially when you already have a supporter that works well with grass already like Erica, you have to be very, very specific in your deck building, I think, to want to include Mallow. And I know that Sophocles is going to be a little bit difficult to see here, but I am going to try and get a frame where it is mostly legible. During this turn, attacks used by your Alolan Golem, Vikavolt, or Togedemaru do 30 plus damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. I haven't been playing a bunch of ranked or general ladder recently, but these kind of cards just do sort of seem a dime a dozen. I just expect that the specific Pokemon that you have to play to use Sophocles is not going to outweigh actually wanting to play this card. And finally, we get a sneak peek of what I'm pretty certain is the first immersive of a supporter card, Lily. Heal 60 damage from one of your stage 2 Pokemon. If you want me to be honest, the card itself is fine. It's not really bad in any way, shape, or form, especially if you plan on playing stage 2 Pokemon. But if you want my real opinion, I expect people to only be playing this card because she's just a super popular protagonist in the Pokemon franchise. Again, it's a generic enough card that I think people can use it, but at the same time, I don't know if it's going to be as impactful as some other supporters that you could be fitting into your deck. But that is going to wrap up all the cards that were shown off during the reveal trailer of Celestial Guardians. I do assume that there are going to be other cards going to be kind of popping up here, whether they're through data mines or some other leaks, but those are going to be the ones I cover here. Personally, I am really looking forward to this set. I have a lot of love for Alola, and it's probably my second favorite region behind Hoenn, and so I am excited to see all of the Alola Pokemon that they fit into each of these packs. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you guys so very much for watching. Hopefully you're having a fantastic night or day wherever you may be, and I hope to see you next time. See ya!